give this talk. She graduated from Kings County EM residency in 2004. She did an ultrasound fellowship at North Shore. And then she joined the faculty at George Washington University, eventually moving to Harvard, UCLA, where she is ultrasound fellowship director? Or no, she's in the ultrasound faculty there. But she's most certainly hospital chair of the hospital-wide point-of-care ultrasound committee there. And notably, she was just awarded the Teaching Excellence Award at SAEM, which she shared with another one of our grads, Andrew Latepla, and then Risa Lewis, who is also just here to talk to us. So, Teresa?
Good morning, everyone. It's about 9 o'clock, so you guys should have had some coffee. I'm super happy to be here, to be back here, and it's very nerve-wracking as well, like in front of all my old teachers and stuff. First, I want to say congratulations, class of 2019. It's not easy to graduate from this program. I've been there. Matt asked me to talk about innovations in emergency medicine, and I just kind of say, well, I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. So you guys are getting this Ikigai and the guts of a new machine. Just a show of hands, anybody know what Ikigai is? Excellent. All right, so first, who I am. So I'm going to debunk some myths. First of all, I'm not that old. I didn't graduate in 2004. I graduated in 2007, so big difference.
Bad reference.
I was an academic genius, back in 2007, just like Matt is, and I was there begging, different speakers to come give a talk and telling them, sorry, we don't pay, just like I was told. So things hasn't changed much. And then I went on to do an ultrasound fellowship. Why did I do that? Well, I am old enough that going through residency, I've gone through 2 ultrasound faculty. Dave Solomon, who remembers Dave Solomon? He was here for a month and a half. And then I overlapped Mike Stone, who I think people still have organizational memory of, for 3 months. Which means that my only exposure to ultrasound was how to do the OBGYN exam in the fast track, which I heard that you guys don't do anymore. Like the OBGYN patients go into the main ED, not in the fast track. But I learned my ultrasound because we have this humongous old machine that we just keep, we do a ton of transvaginal ultrasound and all that stuff. That's all I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do a fast, okay? And that's the reason I went into to get an ultrasound fellowship. But also the other thing is that I'm the kind of person who is not innately super confident or anything, so I'm like, I need more training. I need more training. 4 years is not enough. So my dear friend and mentor, Dr. Zatopchi, and he knows that he will never live this down. And I can make fun of him all I want because he was the best man at my wedding. And so I went to him and I say, Sharia, what do you think about this ultrasound fellowship thing and stuff? And he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, Teresa, I have to tell you, it's a fad. This picture is to say that this is basically my journey. So basically that's how I got started. For once I did not listen to Sharia, but 99% of the times I would listen to him. So then I graduated fellowship, okay? And I got my first attending job. And it was great. I graduated at a time, so you guys are graduating and you're going on to great things. I graduated at a time where any ultrasound fellowship graduates can immediately become fellowship directors, ultrasound directors, all that stuff. No problem getting any jobs anywhere. But again, I'm the kind of person who's like, I need to learn more. I need to learn more. So I specifically look for places that already has an ultrasound faculty, already has an ultrasound director, and I joined him, and I started my first academic job at the George Washington University. A couple years later, according to ACEP guideline, I was able to become fellowship director. So you have to think about this, right? Because a lot of people graduate and jump into these positions, and they're not really ready for it. In fact, ACEP guidelines tell you that you have to be at least 3 years out of fellowship to become a fellowship director. But people don't really do that. But I'm glad I did that, and I became fellowship director, did a lot of great things in my mind, right? We started longitudinal ultrasound curriculum at a medical school. I taught all over the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. I went to like Brazil, China, first time to China, despite how Asian I looked. And living in a great city. DC is a great city with disposable income for the first time. So it was a good time in my life, okay? Then in 2013, something happened. But before we go there, I want to talk about Ikigai and introduce you guys to the concept of Ikigai. So Ikigai is a Japanese philosophy that basically tells you that it's your reason for being, okay? It's what makes you get up in the morning every day. And it's basically, you can Google this. It's basically, wow, that's a big slide. Consisted of 4 big aspects of life, okay? Your Ikigai is the center of all these overlap. It's about what the world needs, right? It's about what you're getting paid for, and then it's what you love and what you can offer, okay? So if your life is all about what you can get paid for and what you're good at, then you're a professional. But it says nothing about what you love or what your interest or what your innate motivation, right? If you do what the world needs and what you love and what you're good at, which you guys can all relate because you're residents, there's no wealth, right? So you're working your ass off, butt off, and and you're doing what you love, and you're feeling like you're fulfilling this like need, like social EM, we're helping this working poor population. These are all very noble things, but what's missing is the money, okay? And don't be afraid to ask for money, right? Because I feel like one of the misunderstanding is that, okay, I go into this because I love this so much. Almost everybody I talk to when I go into academics, they're like, you go into academics, you're not gonna be motivated by money. And that's to a certain extent true. That is not my biggest motivation. But at the same time, my advice to you all is that money is important, even when it's not important to you personally. It's important to your dependents. You can deprive yourself of some of your rewards, material rewards, but think about your dependents. And why would you deprive them of what you deserve and they deserve? So a lot of times we don't talk about what you get paid for, but that's actually, a quarter of your reason of being, right? So everybody's Ikigai is going to be different, right? Because everybody has different motivations, different set of skills, okay? But I want to focus right now on the negative space here. So if you're over here, right, you're doing what you love and you're good at it and you're getting paid for it, but it's not what the world needs. And so what that looks like is a sense of uselessness, okay? Because you're not fulfilling a niche, you're not fulfilling a need. Sorry, do you guys prefer mic? No mic? You don't care?
Yeah, we're okay with
We can hear you. Alright. So what about if you are down here, right? Can you see the red dot? Down here, okay? So you're definitely getting paid for it, and you're fulfilling a need, and you're good at it, but you don't love it, so you're comfortable, but you're feeling empty. And you know what happened is that when you go through the up and downs of your job, there's not that motivation to push you through the rough patch, right? A lot of times when things don't go well, it's the love of what we do that carry us through to the next day. If you are over here, okay, so you got everything, right? You love it, although I think it's hard if you're not good at it, how can you love it? You're fulfilling a need and you're getting paid for it. But then there's uncertainty in your life because you're not good at it. You feel a lot of self-doubt. Now that is, the truth is that these two parts, this half of the equation you can control, right? That's about you. So if you're not good at something innately, you can train for it. You can get good at it. If you're not interested, your interest will change over time, right? But what you need to know is how that self is interacting with the world. What does the world need from you, and what is it willing to offer you? Okay? So, for me, there needs to be some self-knowledge, okay? I love being number 2, okay? Number 2 is awesome, right? In fact, when I was looking for my jobs, I kind of, say no to all the positions that require me to become an ultrasound director, okay? Because I don't want to deal with all the bullcrap. And I want to have the freedom to do what I love to do and have, to be really not known by my title, but by what I really offer to the place I work. So you were mentioning, was I the ultrasound fellowship director and whatnot. So when I was at GW, I was fellowship director for many years. And then at my current position, when I accepted the position, my chair said, okay, what title do you want? And I look at him and I say, does it matter? And he said, I don't think so. So I say, I don't either. So I'm core faculty, okay? But I'm in a section of 2, so I do a lot, okay? And what really helps me being number 2 is that I know I'm judged by what I offer and not what is placed on me, the label, okay? And so for me, what do I love, okay? I love when I teach somebody and they get that aha moment. I love when, this happened last month and I'm very proud of it, when multiple of my residents is sitting there sweating bullets and cannot reduce a rectal prolapse, and I go in and I go, whoop, and I drop and walk away. Okay. I was very humble and honored to receive the award this year at SAEM. But really, the cynics in me knows that while I work hard and I'm happy to be recognized, a lot of politics go into it. And really, 100 other people probably deserve the award. So what really brings me joy is when this hits Twitter and people from 10 years ago, like an anatomist, wrote me and was like, I remember when you taught me this. I remember how much patience you have with me when I am just a basic scientist and I don't know right from left in ultrasound. So that's what I love, and that's what motivates me. Followers, and I feel like I'm at a good place with the Ikigai. So at this point, right, you guys are thinking, this is a talk about innovation. What is she talking about? Matt is sitting there regretting that he invited me, right? He's like, what's going on? So let's shift focus. What is innovation? Okay, let's talk about innovation. And because you're looking like you're so attentive, I'm gonna volunteer you. What do you think innovation is?
Improving on something to fulfill a need.
Improving something to fulfill a need. That's very insightful. Any other thoughts? We're talking about innovation in medicine.
Let's come up with a new idea and share.
With a new idea, right? So you guys actually are way more advanced than I give you credit for. I had to look this up over. Because it's kind of like a buzzword, right? Everybody's talking about innovation, everyone's talking about design thinking, change management and all that stuff, right? My talk was going to be titled the ABC Soups of Buzzwords. But innovation that many influential and successful people will agree is creativity that is being implemented to create value from the user's perspective. Okay? So something that stood out for me is that, most people think about the creativity part, but it's actually the implementation and the value generation. And it doesn't generate value for you, it generates value for the receiving end of your innovation. So people talk around this innovation word like Trump tweeting about local. It's like all over the place. But I don't think people are really using it correctly, right? Did you guys know there's 3 kinds of innovation? Did anybody know this? No? Okay. So there's 3 kinds of innovation, and most of what we think about is like transformation innovation, inventing the wheel, right? But it's not, right? First of all, let's see. Incremental innovation is like survival. You have to change with time, otherwise you become not relevant. So what does that mean? I run the resident ultrasound rotation. Every year the criteria gets harder, okay? Because people come out from medical school knowing more and more. I just mentioned I did a fellowship because I didn't know how to do a fast exam, right? That is different now, right? So you have to change every year. You have to modify a little bit, That's incremental. Breakthrough is when you kind of made a bigger leap within your field, okay? But a breakthrough innovation is going to be caught up by a lot of other people very soon. Transformative disruptive is literally like iPod, right? iPod changes the world, right? That's what we're talking about. Most people think about innovation as disruptive, transformative innovation. So since I'm talking about ultrasound, I want to challenge you guys to look at these innovations. That's pretty hot, right? Pretty hot right now. That's what people talk about. Artificial intelligence, tele-ultrasound, and personal ultrasound, right? Handheld ultrasound. So artificial intelligence, what kind of innovation is that? Transformation. Come on, there's only 2 choices. We got 33%. All right. Transformation, right? Okay. What about tele-ultrasound? What do you think it is?
Incremental.
Incremental. And what about personalized ultrasound?
Breakthrough.
Breakthrough. Okay. All right. is an easy class to deal with. So, think about it this way. What is artificial intelligence? And again, we fall into the trap of thinking that this is inventing the wheel. This is sliced bread. But artificial intelligence is your EKG reading AFib when there is baseline activity, right? Artificial intelligence is the auto game button on your ultrasound machine. Artificial intelligence is anything that the machine can do that has not been done. Once it's been done, people don't think that's intelligent anymore. So it's true because, before it's like, whoa, well, there's no possible way that, the machine can play chess. Well, now they beat the best Go player in the world, where there's like 10 to the 170th position point or whatever, So we are already in the world of artificial intelligence, okay? So it's actually incremental because we already have a bladder scanner, right? That can, you scan through an area, it can pop out a number, tell you if the bladder is full or not, right? So the way I think about artificial intelligence, yes, it's the way of the future. Yes, eventually you're going to be able to wave something around like a tricorder, and the computer is going to tell you how to treat the patient. But really, artificial intelligence is here and now, and every step forward is incremental. It's just improvement on the artificial intelligence. I think tele-ultrasound is transformative. Think about what it can do for education. Those of you who might be interested in international emergency medicine, do you guys know what that's doing? Somebody is scanning a belly and a remote area, another person is looking at the ultrasound image on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, it's like FaceTime. And you can see where the probe is on the belly. You can remotely guide this inexperienced learner how to do this, okay? So it's really, for me, it's really transformative, right? As a teacher, like I don't have to fly out to Kenya to do this. I don't have to, fly out to Alaska or any of the remote areas for me. Now, personalized ultrasound, to me, I don't know if it's quite breakthrough. I think it's somewhere between transformative and breakthrough. And what is so amazing about it? It's not really the fact that you don't use crystals anymore. It's partially that. You use silicon wafers. But what really is transformative is that silicon wafer means that it's cheap. Your ultrasound machine went from $40,000, at best, it's 40 and up, to $2,000. And that is a game changer, right? Because now you're not relying on hospitals to buy you ultrasound. Students can buy it, right? Plenty of people just have their own. And in fact, the ambition of Butterfly is to put this in the regular consumer's home. They're hoping that everyone's going to be like Tom Cruise and buy an ultrasound machine to look at their baby. Have I lost all of you guys yet? Okay. So I hope that, with that example, I've shown you that innovation is not just the big, crazy stuff. Sometimes it's just about putting existing stuff in a new concept. And what you really want is to create value. So 2 umbrellas used in the same way does not add value to 1 umbrella. But this does, right? You don't have to reinvent the umbrella. You can take it from somewhere else and apply it in a novel way. And that's still innovation. So now that you guys know what innovation is, where does it come from? And I know you guys are all lost, but trust the process because it's coming back to Ikigai. Okay? Think about Ikigai as the reason, as the soul for innovation. Okay? And remember I told you guys how this part is what you love and what your skills are, right? And this part is the world, what they're willing to pay for and what they need. And how do you innovate from that? Well, first of all, you need a commitment. You need a deep dive. You're not going to innovate if you just float through life superficially. You better get really good at what you're doing, and you better love what you're doing, because otherwise, you just don't know enough about yourself to be able to innovate. Now, if you don't immerse yourself in the environment that you live in, right? The environment of healthcare, of your particular hospital, or of the world in general, you're not going to be able to innovate. So innovation requires these 4 elements as well. And remember, incremental innovation is actually just survival, okay? It's the way to stay relevant. To go beyond that, what you need to commit yourself, this is an active process. What you need to commit yourself to doing is to not be complacent, right? To gain new perspectives. To, you go into your new hospital and people's gonna tell you, this is the way it's always been, okay? And they're used to it. And that's why it's good to have diversity. That's why it's good to have people, come from the outside, because they won't go into that mindset. They're like, no, this is wrong, right? If you need to gain a perspective, take a vacation. Get out from your environment a little bit. Come back, then you'll gain a perspective, right? You need to commit to being really good. I run the resident rotation. I give them their requirements, and then they're adults. They can figure out what schedule they need to come in. I don't take care of that. I don't take attendance or anything, because really, that's part of your Ikigai. That's part of your innovation, is how much skill you have. And you get out what you put in. So you get the freedom to do that. And be a troublemaker, right? So there's a very good quote that I cannot quote, but it basically says something like, 95% of the people will adopt themselves to the environment. And 5% of the people won't. They're just stubborn, they refuse. Those 5% of the people are the people who will change the world. Okay? So be a troublemaker, don't be complacent. Now, do we need to innovate, right? How do we think about innovation? So in a very famous New York Times article back in 2003, the article is called "The Gut of a New Machine." And over there, the reporter, Rob Walker, is interviewing Steve Jobs about the iPod. And he says, do you consciously think about innovation? We can all agree, whether you're like a Mac lifer or not, that Apple is like an innovation company, right? They value innovation. So he says to Steve Jobs, do you think about innovation? And Steve Jobs almost smacked him in the head. It's like, no, right? I think about how to make good product. I think about how to make a good product. We consciously think about making great products. We don't think, let's be innovative, all right? He said he waved his hands for effect. Let's take a class. Here are the 5 rules of innovation, and let's put them up all over the company. So innovation comes up organically because you anticipate or you see the needs, right? You can get paid for it. That's a good motivation. And then you have your skills. All right. So let's look at some of the things that I've done in the past 10 years of my career. Okay. Sorry to say, none of them are breakthrough. There's no transformative innovation there. And you guys may know some stuff, like Sono Games is, you guys know Sono Games? I haven't seen a student downstate team for a while. But, it's like one of those things, residencies come together, compete, it's in its 7th year. And why is it important in my mind is because it's kind of leading the field of gamification of education. I thought that was kind of cool that I got involved in that. Some of you guys may be products of the ultrasound in medical school movement, right? So you learn your ultrasound from medical school, so that's great. And there's other things that I may be at one time or another either am one of the first to talk about it, publish in literature, or do. But I want to point out a couple that I specifically want to emphasize. Carotid flow time. Who knows about carotid flow time? Do you guys know about carotid flow time? Okay. So it's a way that people talk about, without having to really know your color Dopplers and spectral Dopplers to evaluate hemodynamic status of the patient, okay? Fluid responsiveness, all right? It's got a lot of buzz, a lot of big names, my friends in ultrasound publishing it, and it's cool. But you know what? I'm writing a paper, and here's my innovation. I'm going to be the first one to say it doesn't work. Okay? So sometimes you go against the grain, and you put out what's true for you. Okay? Like I try, and I can't get the inter-rater reliability to work. You move that cursor over by one little point, and it screw up all the numbers. So, not all the innovations are positive innovation. You can have negative innovation. I'm working on developing a new way to teach point-of-care ultrasound. So a new course is going to come out in December, and I'm hoping, so some of these things on the bottom are what I'm recently working on, and hopefully, that will change the way people teach point-of-care ultrasound. But what I really want to emphasize are these 3 things on the bottom, okay? If you ask me, what value have I generated, okay, with all the things that I think is innovative that I've done, right? I'm going to tell you that the one thing that matters to me in a day-to-day life is the dongle. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, it used to be a pain, a royal pain to do ultrasound and to document and to upload and all that stuff. It's like a 20-step process to do like a DVT study, or no, DVT is 30 because then you have to take off the pens and all that stuff. So to do a soft tissue, okay, let's do something else, to do a peripheral IV. Because we had to, do all the crazy workflow, do the study, and then move the machine over to a docking station, grab the Ethernet cable, plug it in, right, for it to upload to PACS. And when I started at my current job, I said, why are we not doing this wirelessly, right? So, well, it's always that way, okay? Okay, well, but, it's 2016, like wireless thing is not rocket science. Well, we talked to IT, they said no, the hospital was built without the capability to have the bandwidth to accommodate image transmission, da-da-da. Then one of my residents working with me on this project went to Amazon and bought this dongle for $12. Plug it into the back of the Sonos site that we have, and all of a sudden we're transmitting wirelessly. And when we finish our exam, we press N, and it goes to PACS. And that alone improved the value and improved my documentation rate by so much. The dongle, who would have thought? Okay, now we enter the dark side, the dark part of the lecture. Okay, I'm gonna channel my inner house and talk about some cynical stuff and be the non-believer, which is important because you need to question critically what you're doing. So over the years, I've been doing this for a dozen years. It's become clear to me that despite all these efforts to push point-of-care ultrasound, we're not doing it. And what do I mean by that? I mean, are you guys doing point-of-care ultrasound? Are you really doing it? Okay, well, let's see. You guys may recognize some of these people who was, like born during my adulthood. So there's some of your senior residents that I had the pleasure to working with. One of them is my fellow. And so Joyce said, well, if point of ultrasound is so great and there's so much literature behind it, and Jackie said, then why are we not doing it? What do I mean that we're not doing it? What is point-of-care ultrasound? What is the New England Journal of Medicine definition for point-of-care ultrasound?
Done immediately at the bedside, patient's
To
bedside.
be done at the bedside. That's one part of it.
Interpreted in real time.
Interpret it. Who's doing it?
The doctor or a provider.
The provider. Okay? What I see, and it's supposed to change management, right? I mean, I was part of a lot of papers that say if you do point-of-care ultrasound, you alter this effect, you change this management, you expedite the ED stay. But how is your ultrasound done? Is it really done by you taking care of your patient, or is it done by the ultrasound team? What is the ultrasound team? It's your in-department radiology consultant. Are you doing point-of-care ultrasound? Okay, so that's the first part. Second part, the point-of-care ultrasound is supposed to alter management. So you find appendicitis. Is it your ultrasound, or is it the CT, or is it the radiology ultrasound that made the surgeons take that patient to the OR? Are you doing point-of-care ultrasound?
Nope.
So there's the knowledge, there's the evidence base, and then there's practice, okay? And in between, there's that gap. And this brings to the part that I'm getting pretty excited to talk about. Sorry, that was the dark part, okay? Now we move on, okay? The HUG study. So do you guys know that there are a handful of systematic reviews and meta-analysis that tell you that lung ultrasound is way better than X-ray in diagnosing pediatric pneumonia, better than clinical gestalt, better than X-ray. Who's doing lung ultrasound to diagnose pneumonia and either starting antibiotics, send them home, or admitting them? Most people is doing chest X-ray. Why? Why are we not practicing evidence-based medicine? Did you know that it takes 12 scans, 12 passes on a crying, febrile, irritable 18 months old to complete the lung ultrasound protocol? There's a barrier, okay? So the HUG study that is on the way right now, I think we have about 18 patients enrolled, is trying to see what we can really bring evidence to the bedside by lowering some of the ridiculous barriers that can only happen in a research environment, like doing 12 or 18 passes on a crying baby, right? So we're trying to see if we can just have the parents hug the baby, right? And also do an abbreviated scan and have the same sensitivity and specificity as the comprehensive. Instead of going through every zone horizontally and then vertically, we just do it horizontally because it doesn't make sense to us to go through vertically. So that's innovation, right? But this is this is generating evidence, which is different than the next thing that I want to talk about, which is bring implementation science to point-of-care ultrasound. And that's what, when Matt come out to California to interview for fellowship, that's what we bomb over. Oh, wrong slide. Implementation science is what we bomb over. So, what is implementation science? Have you guys even heard of this phrase? Okay. It's knowing that there's evidence and then there's practice and there's a huge gap. We're not doing what we say we're doing. And it's about trying to figure out how to bring evidence into our practice. And there are many ways to do that, right? It's like, first you describe, okay, how much is the uptake, right? At the VA system, one of the best known examples is that, cognitive behavioral therapy works for bipolar patients. How many patients are getting cognitive behavior therapy? How many physicians are referring their patients to cognitive behavior therapy? So you try to study the uptake of evidence. And then you look at, the different factors that go into it. Now the factors is from patient to provider to administrator to hospital resources to policy. And so implementation science has a lot to, it's a really multidisciplinary. You're bringing all sorts of sociologists, anthropologists, psychologists into it to see how do you change behavior? How do you take the evidence? And whether evidence really still stands in real world, okay? One of the issues with evidence is that when you do a research study, there's a lot of resources that go into it. There's like money, like there's research assistant, there's like providers have heightened like sensitivity that, this study is happening. And it's that real life. So implementation, so one of the things that I'm doing, and that's what we geek out about over here, is that, in LA County, we are home to some of the biggest residencies in the country, right? There's USC LA County, there's Harbor where I'm at, then there's UCLA Olive. And we're in the same county system. And when you're in a closed system, you really have to look at your resources. And I'm looking at some of my colleagues and ourselves, and we say we're practicing point-of-care ultrasound, and we're not really practicing point-of-care ultrasound. Some of us document, my images go to PACS. My surgeon's supposed to take my cholecystitis straight to the OR. But other people, their images download onto a computer, and it's sitting in their office, and nobody can get access to it. So of course they have to do a confirmatory study. But what's the problem with that? When you do that, you're not practicing in medical practice. You're practicing as in educational practice. You have to be able to really be accountable. Some of my colleagues say, well, I worry that we don't have good images. Some of our faculty, some of our residents are not very good at it, and we don't want everybody to look at this. Very legitimate concerns, but what's the solution? The solution is not to hide behind it and sweep it underneath the sofa. You gotta air your dirty laundry, because then you'll actually do laundry. Right? If you just toss it into the closet, right? Do your laundry, all right? And, you gotta Marie Kondo your apartment, right? Invite people over so you're not embarrassed. That's the solution. So, so this is implementation science is one of the things that help that we talk about that will hopefully bring value to the whole system. And I think I'm running out of my time, so I gotta quickly finish up. So the Twitter is remind me, and I forgot to say this, for me to leave medicine. It was just as hard to re-enter medicine. But I will tell you that my hiatus gave me a completely different perspective about what I want my career to be. Because I had a complete shift of my Ikigai. So now, this is my life. My office looks into that one. That's my husband, who is class of 2006. And so to not see his face, I have to shut my door. and then I just, Sunday night, I just took sign out from Joyce. And as I mentioned, Jackie is my fellow. And so even though you leave county, you never leave county. I'm surrounded by county people. There's plenty of other faces that I see regularly, all the way in Los Angeles, who are from Kings County, who didn't make it up there. I don't have fancy titles, but I feel like I'm doing meaningful work, and I work in a very magical place. And so I'm happy, and that's my Ikigai. And my question to you is, what is your Ikigai? What makes you wake up in the morning? How are you going to innovate? There is only one constant thing in life, and that's change. How are you going to adapt to it? And you guys are going through big changes right now, so it's very easy at a graduation speech to say that, okay, change is coming. But as you can see, poop happens. And, a lot of different things can happen that throw you off, that is unplanned. But you have to be in the right mindset to innovate. And it's about innovating yourself, innovating the career, and innovating in your discipline of choice. To end, I dedicate this lecture to all the teachers I've had through the years in Kings County, my senior residents who are up there, my junior residents who kick my ass and motivate me to be better, but especially Mark Silverberg. And I think you guys will find comfort to know that he didn't start rolling his eyes with your class. He started rolling.